The words and content of my talk are my own, and I'm not speaking as a representative of North Carolina Central University. As we begin today's conversation, I want to introduce to you someone that is very near and dear to my heart. Her name is Kiki. She was born in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, a very small town in the eastern part of the state. Kiki loved school. She loved to learn. She was frequently told by family and friends and her teachers how smart she was. Now, these comments and these statements made drove many of her visions, her dreams, and her plans. Years passed, and she did, in fact, excel in education. College was her only option after high school, but there was one thing that was standing in Kiki's way: math. Calculus. She hated math. And to her delight, as she researched the colleges and universities that she would be applying to, she discovered that calculus was not required to get in. So Kiki had a plan. And y'all know what that plan was? To drop calculus. Now, during that time in high school, there was a requirement that if you were going to drop a course, you had to first go and speak to the instructor about why you wanted to drop. No problem. Kiki made a beeline to Mrs. X's classroom, her calculus teacher, and she presented her rationale as to why she was going to drop the course. Kiki explained that after extensive research, she had confirmed that the colleges that she planned to apply to did not require calculus to get in. She told Mrs. X she was going to apply to 3 historically black colleges and universities and 1 predominantly white institution, providing Mrs. X with a list of those institutions. So Kiki just believed that it was unnecessary to continue the class. Immediately after telling Mrs. X where she planned to apply, Mrs. X said, "You'll never get into that PWI without taking calculus." Now, Kiki was taken aback, not only by what Mrs. X said, but how she said it. See, in her Southern upbringing, she was taught that there's a way to even talk to a dog, and the tone in which Mrs. X spoke to her. Roof, roof. This educator, this figure of authority, this woman of wisdom, Kiki immediately began to feel a range of emotions. The first was she was pissed. She was pissed to the highest degree of pissivity, followed by confusion, disappointment, but above all, y'all, she was hurt. For the first time in a very long time, not only did she feel incompetent, she felt dumb. Kiki said to herself, "This woman don't know me. Did this woman say what she said because I'm black? Did this woman say what she said because I'm black and I'm smart? Did this woman say what she said because I'm black, I'm smart, and I'm from the wrong side of the tracks?" Kiki left school that day, went home, went straight into her room, locked her door, and she cried like a baby. Oh, she cried. Now, the tears eventually stopped, and she thought to herself, was she going to follow the guidance of Mrs. X and remove the PWI from her list of colleges? Or was she going to continue with her well-thought-out plan? How many of you can identify with Kiki? How many of you have had something that you were so very excited about, a vision, a dream, a plan? You shared it with somebody that you thought that you could trust, and that individual metaphorically vomited on everything you told them. Now, Kiki did, in fact, make a decision on that day, and we're going to get to that, okay? But what I want to focus on is what she learned from her experience with Mrs. X, a.k.a. the vomit lady. Kiki knew she was at a crossroads. Would she allow this teacher and their conversation in the classroom on that day to serve as a gate or a door? Doors and gates. Now, I think that we can all agree that there is a commonality with doors and gates. They both serve as barriers intentionally positioned in certain locations to provide protection and privacy. Although they serve as a common purpose, there is a structural composition that is different. And this difference dictates what you're allowed to see on the other side. I want you to think about it. Many doors are intentionally structured in a way to prevent you from seeing what's on the other side, especially interior doors. This is not necessarily the case with a gate. Usually with a construction of a gate, it allows to at least let you peek to see what's on the other side so you can make a determination as to whether you want to experience what's on the other side. Now, I know some of you may be wondering, okay, what do doors and gates got to do with little Kiki? I'm glad you asked. J. Sidlow Baxter was an author and theologian, and he once posed this question: what is the difference between an obstacle and an opportunity? Our attitude toward it. Your attitude can catapult you or constrain you. It impacts your perception. And now, based on that question that he posed, I have a question for you all. When you think about your visions, your dreams, your plans, what do you see? Well, if you say, I see obstacles, that means you see doubt, you see devaluation, you see defeat, you see doors. If the answer to that question is, well, I see opportunities, you see grit, you see growth, you will see glory, and you see gates. There are 4 things that I want to leave with you that I hope will help correct your vision so you will always see gates as opposed to doors, regardless of what the situation or circumstance may be. Number 1, identification. When you look in the mirror, you must assess what you see internally. You must identify and acknowledge the enemies of your inner me. I call it soul work. What are the people, the places, or things in your life that have allowed self-sabotage to be the constant culprit of a lack of self-confidence in your life? And because of this lack of self-confidence, you slowly suffocate in such a way that you ultimately lose consciousness to what really is and who you really are. See, Kiki did her soul work and quickly identified Mrs. X as the enemy of her inner me. Mrs. X's words made her feel worthless and unworthy. She perceived the situation with Mrs. X as a huge door that could not be destroyed because of who Mrs. X was. Number 2, preparation to fight. Now, after you identify and acknowledge the enemies of your inner me, you must prepare to fight. Mark Twain said this, one of my favorite quotes: courage is not the absence of fear, but it's the mastery of it. Will you allow fear to master you? Or do you have enough courage to fight to master it? I promise you this. Fighting the enemies of your enemy will be scary at times and will feel like a marathon rather than a sprint. But baby, you got to constantly prepare to face them with courage and fight. Kiki did make a decision in her room on that day. She was going to fight against what she allowed Mrs. X to seep into her mind about her future. Number 3, vision change. In making the decision to fight, Kiki's courage was ignited like a fire that began to burn on the inside of her in a way that it changed her vision. So she can only see gates as opposed to doors, regardless of the situation or circumstance. Seeing gates as opposed to doors does not negate the necessity of hard work. Why? Because there are skills and strategies that you need to unlock that gate. And the level of your desperation for what's on the other side will drive how hard you're willing to work. So how bad do you want it? Kiki wanted it real bad. Why? Because she had a vision change. Instead of seeing a door that had been securely fastened by the words of Mrs. X, she saw a gate and was determined to get what she saw on the other side of that gate. Now, you may be wondering, well, what did little Kiki see on the other side of the gate? Once again, I'm glad you asked. She saw graduating from high school with honors. She saw acceptance letters at all of those colleges, including that PWI, eventually going to law school and practicing law. But Kiki's vision changed. And because it changed, she was committed to getting to what she needed to do to unlock that gate. Little did she know that her commitment would lead to covenant. She had to marry what she decided. And what she decided was that she was going to persevere no matter what. A covenant is defined as a binding agreement. If something is binding, it imposes an obligation. Perseverance is defined as a continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. When Kiki entered into a covenant with perseverance, there was no turning back. She did not turn her back on perseverance. And baby, perseverance did not turn its back on her. This was not going to be an 80-20 relationship. This was going to be 100 all in on both sides. So she took some vows with perseverance. For better or worse, rich or poor, in sickness and in health. Death do us part. See, Kiki had a shotgun wedding that day in her room with perseverance because she was pregnant with purpose. And what she needed to birth, her destiny was on the other side of that gate. She was determined with perseverance that she was going to unlock that gate. Worse, poor, sickness came in so many ways. But divorce and perseverance was not an option. Because she was in covenant with perseverance, she got into that predominantly white institution. And let me tell you what her mama made her do, because her mama could be real petty sometimes. Her mama made her take that acceptance letter to Mrs. X and read it to Mrs. X, because that letter to that PWI represented the fruit of her marriage with perseverance. Kiki graduated from that predominantly white institution. She went to law school. While practicing law, she was presented with an opportunity to teach at the same law school that she had graduated from, and she graciously accepted. 15 years later, she not only teaches at that law school, but she's an associate dean at that law school. And now she does TED Talks. Nakia Shanetta Davis, a.k.a. Nakia C. Davis, a.k.a. Kiki, stands before you today 32 years later, still happily married to perseverance. My marriage has taught me this, that doors are only demonic delusions designed to keep you from your destiny. My marriage has also taught me this, that you cannot walk into your God-given authority until you make the courageous choice to only see gates when everything and everyone around you is screaming doors. Today, you all were my special students in this special classroom. Today's lesson was intended to serve as the catalyst responsible for the removal of the scales off the eyes of your mindset. And when I look at each of you, unlike my teacher, Mrs. X, see, I'm the teacher now. And I see destinies full of gates as opposed to doors. Oh, I see you peeking. I hope you ultimately choose what I see. Because like the little girl on the screen, I know that each of you has what it takes to unlock your